So Nadia, what will you be showing us today?
Today we're going to be making my famous blueberry crumb bars. What you'll need for this recipe is sugar, cornstarch, egg, lemon, butter, baking powder, salt, blueberries, flour, and a little bit of water.
And my sister Nadia. See how delicate she is in the ingredients, but also in the speaking. My sister's like a delicate little flower. She's my older little sister. Okay, keep going.
She's my baby. I'm lucky. I'm baking with two of my daughters today.
We need some blueberries and some butter.
And to make the blueberry crumb bars, we're going to need the help of a food processor. Now, I recommend a food processor because this is the tool that you're going to use to achieve the crumb texture that you're looking for. I do not suggest using a stand mixer for this because a stand mixer is going to turn your dough into more of a ball, which we're trying to avoid. And if you do not have a food processor on hand, you can go out and buy yourself an inexpensive pastry cutter. I've done this recipe before with a pastry cutter. Sometimes in the mornings when I'm trying to bake and either the kids are sleeping or my husband is sleeping, I'll come down here and I'll just do it by hand. But when everyone is awake and the house is, full of noise, then I'll go ahead and I'll use my machine.
I have some weird visual, like a little elf.
Because it's quiet, so I need different tools to do different things, but I prefer using my food processor, but if not, the pastry cutter is a very good alternative. I've used it.
You can use any fruit. I mean, we're using blueberry, but what else do you suggest if they don't want blueberries?
Yes, in summertime I like to use blueberries, and we're using frozen blueberries. I've always used frozen blueberries in this recipe, and the reason why I like this recipe is because, number one, I don't need the butter to be room temperature. My blueberries can be frozen, so I can really whip this up in about 30 minutes tops, and it's with things that I just have in my fridge, in my freezer. I use the blueberries in summertime. When it's winter time, I replace it with more warmer things, so I'll mix in some cranberries. Right now in this recipe we're using lemon, but when I do the cranberry version more Christmas time, so you'll see sometimes I'll cut out the blueberries and I'll do a cherry and cranberry mix that will go well, and I'll replace the lemon with orange instead because that makes it more of a festive holiday time. Yeah. But we're summer right now. We're just starting our summer actually, so we're doing this recipe as it was written the traditional way, which is blueberries and the lemon.
So this whips up together fast. So obviously what we ended up doing was preparing our baking pan, and we just lined it with some, we did some bricolage there.
Yeah, I just lined it with parchment paper because once it's done cooking, we'll let it cool in the pan for about 10 minutes, and then I just used the parchment paper to lift it out of the...
And this is a deep dish because these are going to be like cut into bars, so nice chunky pieces. So we're going to have all the measurements, ingredients, directions always in video description, but this is a deep dish pan, and then we have our oven preheated to 375 because this is boom 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 and into the oven it goes, right?
That's right.
Okay. And the pan is not greased. We just lined it with the parchment paper. No need to grease your pan.
All right, so closer look to get this all whipped up.
Yes.
And into the oven it'll bake, and then we will be eating it again. See you soon. Okay.
This recipe calls for cold butter, and what I like to do with my butter, when I take it out of the packaging before I put it in the fridge, I like to score it. There's the measurements that are on the brick of butter when you buy it. So what I do is I measure half and then half again, so like that I get the quarter, 1/4 markings. And I leave it in my fridge this way, so that when I'm baking, at least I use my scoring lines as a guide, and I know that each segment is a 1/4 cup. So this recipe calls for 1 cup of butter, so I'm going to use for my little scored sections. is what I need for my recipe. I'm just gonna leave this here for 1 second. And the recipe also calls for a ½ teaspoon of salt. What I like to do when I'm measuring my salt, and I've done this mistake before, where you're using your little box and you're holding your spoon over your mixture, sometimes you'll have like a little clump of salt that'll come out and will make your salt gush, and you're gonna ruin your whole mixture. So what I like to do is I just measure and pour over the sink, because I can't scoop into this box, it's closed. So I like to measure over the sink in case I'm making me a little mess, and now I have my perfect spoonful, because when I do this over the flour or whatnot, sometimes, like I said, too much salt will come out and I'll ruin my recipe. So here's the ½ teaspoon of salt that I'm adding to 3 cups of flour. I have 1 cup of sugar. We're going to use 1 egg, a teaspoon of baking powder, and some lemon zest. Now I'm just gonna throw it all into the food processor and turn it on and pulse it until it forms a crummy, sandy texture. You don't want it to form a ball, but you're just looking for that little crummy texture. All right, and this is the consistency and the texture that we're going for. We're looking for something that's still a little crummy, but yet when you squeeze it together, that it'll form a ball. So this is exactly the texture that we're looking for.
So that came together really quickly, so we ended up putting everything in a food processor. So what did we do first?
We really, in no particular order, just dump everything in. We're pulsing it until it forms a crumb texture, and we're adding 2 to 3 tablespoons of cold water. What we want is for the texture to be very crumbly, but yet at the same time, if you were to squeeze some together in your hand, that it'll form
together. And cold butter important because cold water important.
Cold water and cold butter.
Exactly.
You want everything
Yes.
to be cold. Your egg has to be cold. Your butter has to be cold. The water has to be cold. Which is why I like this recipe, because I don't need to spend time preparing any of the ingredients that I need. I really just pull everything out of the fridge, everything out of the freezer, and I'm ready to go.
So I'm gonna put this off to the side. My sister's gonna start to make the filling, and my mother's already squeezing the juice. Again, to see what we use.
So we're gonna measure out 4 cups of frozen blueberries, half a cup of sugar, granulated sugar, and cornstarch. Put this to the side.
Sure.
And we're just going to toss this together, and then we're going to be ready to fill our pan.
Alright, so this really does come together quite fast. So as mentioned, we cannot stress enough. Have your pan ready, have your oven preheated, because as soon as this is done and you saw how quick that was to make, everything's gonna be honestly just a one-step.
Is we're going to take half of this mixture and we're going to press it in the bottom of the pan. So let me just try to take about half of it or so. You want to leave some for the topping. So this should be about half. And I'm just going to try to press it with my hands, making a thin layer at the bottom. Maybe a little bit more. We'll see.
So you use as much as you need, like for the bottom
Just to
layer,
cover, yeah, just to
and
do
whatever's
enough
left over
thin layer.
reserved, we'll top it over the blueberries. I guess you could also do it with the back of a measuring cup also.
Yeah, I could.
Yeah.
This came out a little
Yeah, this one too. We'll fix it after.
It's fine. It's really just to help it come out. So it's alright. So we're going
Just to help it release from the pan.
We're going to fill with our blueberry mixture.
So good. All those juices.
Again, we're using a 9 by 13 pan here. Try to spread your fruit out evenly. And the last step we're going to do is we're going to use the remaining mixture, and what you're going to do is you're going to try to crumble it across the top, trying to cover the blueberries, but you still want to see them peeking through a little bit. And as it bakes, the top is going to become nice and golden and crumbly, and the blueberries are going to bubble up and get nice and juicy and thick. The mixture is going to melt in with the cornstarch, and it's going to turn into like a nice jammy consistency. So would you like to help me?
Yeah.
Some of the crumb texture on top.
So as you saw, that was really, really fast. This, honestly guys, I can't wait. It's delicious. Every time she comes to any family gathering, she's always either working with little mini brownie bites or these, and we're in big old, there's none left at the end, just to say. So this goes into the oven that's already been preheated to 375, and this bakes for about
45 minutes.
45 minutes. Now, what are we looking for? Bubbly, golden crust?
Yes, you're looking for the blueberries to bubble up, and you're looking for the crumb topping to turn a nice golden brown.
So obviously everybody's oven is a little different, so please just pay attention. So yours might be ready a little bit closer to 40, so just check in at the halfway mark, and then those last 5 or 10 minutes, just keep a close eye on it. We will show you the end result coming up next. Into the oven it goes.
Our blueberry crumb is out of the oven, and now it's been resting for 10 minutes in the pan, and I'm going to attempt to lift it up and put it on the wire rack, so wish me luck.
To do it like a second rest, right?
Yes, so it can finish to cool off.
Before
And-
slicing.
Yes.